Okay, so you want to buy a movie theater, build a few screens, sell tickets, and watch crowds pour in every weekend for the latest blockbuster. On the surface, it sounds like a fantastic business. People keep coming, new movies release every week, and every sold-out show looks like easy money. But here's the reality almost nobody talks about. The movie playing on your screen is often the least profitable thing your theater sells. It sounds backwards, but that's exactly how the business works. The film may be the reason customers walk through your doors, yet a surprisingly large share of every ticket sold doesn't stay with the theater. Instead, it goes back to the studio that produced the movie. Meanwhile, you're still responsible for paying the rent, the employees, the utilities, the maintenance, the insurance, and everything else required to keep the building open. Now consider this. The company operating more movie screens than any other theater chain in the world has spent years dealing with billions of dollars in debt. It has reported repeated financial losses, refinanced its obligations multiple times, and even warned investors that its stock carries significant risk. If theaters are constantly packed during major releases, how is that even possible? By the end of this video, you'll understand why movie tickets generate surprisingly little profit, where theater owners actually make their money, why popcorn is one of the most profitable products inside the building, and why even the biggest names in the cinema industry are facing enormous financial pressure. To understand the business, you first have to understand that not every theater is built the same. A small independent cinema with 1 or 2 screens is a completely different operation from a modern multiplex. Depending on the building, renovations, and equipment, opening a small neighborhood theater can require anywhere from several $100,000 to well over $1 million. A multiplex is an entirely different story. The kind of theater you find inside a busy shopping center or as the centerpiece of a commercial development often includes 6, 8, or even 10 separate auditoriums. Building one from the ground up can easily cost several $1 million, while premium locations with luxury seating, advanced projection systems, and high-end sound can push that investment well beyond $20 million before the first customer ever buys a ticket. And surprisingly, the building itself isn't always the biggest expense. Every auditorium needs specialized equipment capable of delivering a premium movie experience. Modern laser projectors can cost tens of thousands of dollars each. High-performance surround sound systems at another major expense. Premium reclining seats, digital servers, giant projection screens, climate control systems, lighting, networking infrastructure, and constant maintenance all add to the bill. When you multiply those costs across multiple screens, the technology inside the theater quickly becomes one of the largest investments in the entire business. So why would anyone choose to invest that kind of money? Because for decades, the model worked almost perfectly. If you wanted to watch the newest movie on a massive screen with powerful sound, surrounded by hundreds of other people sharing the same experience, there was only one place to go. The theater offered something that couldn't be recreated in a living room, no matter how expensive your television was. That exclusivity became the industry's greatest advantage. Then, streaming arrived. Suddenly, audiences had thousands of movies available without leaving home. Home entertainment systems became cheaper, televisions became larger, internet speeds improved, and waiting a few weeks to watch a movie became easier than driving across town. The advantage theaters had relied on for generations slowly began to disappear. Which brings us to the question that matters more than anything else. If theaters don't earn much from the very product people come to buy, then what business are movie theaters really in? The answer isn't the movie, it's everything that happens after you've already walked through the front door. Most people believe a theater's biggest source of income is ticket sales. It seems obvious. Every customer has to buy a ticket before they can watch the film. But that's where the business becomes surprisingly deceptive. When a major studio releases a highly anticipated blockbuster, it usually has far more negotiating power than the theater showing it. Because the studio owns the film, it decides the licensing terms. During the opening weeks, when demand is at its highest, the largest share of every ticket sold goes back to the distributor. The exact percentage varies from one agreement to another, but the principle remains the same. The theater earns far less from the ticket than most customers imagine. That creates a strange business model. The product attracting customers into the building isn't necessarily the product paying the bills, so what is? Walk into almost any movie theater and you'll find the answer sitting directly in front of you: the concession stand. That counter filled with popcorn, soft drinks, candy, nachos, and snacks isn't just an extra convenience. For many theaters, it's the financial engine that keeps the entire operation alive. Take popcorn as an example. The raw ingredients are remarkably inexpensive. Popcorn kernels, cooking oil, seasoning, and the bucket itself cost only a fraction of the final selling price. Yet customers happily pay several dollars because they're not simply buying food, they're buying part of the movie-going experience. The same principle applies to fountain drinks. Once the dispensing equipment is installed, each refill costs very little to produce, but it sells at an enormous markup. Unlike ticket revenue, theaters generally keep almost every dollar earned from concessions. No movie studio shares that income, no distributor takes a percentage. The profit stays with the theater. That's why theater managers often pay just as much attention to concession sales as they do to attendance figures. A sold-out auditorium where nobody buys food can actually be less profitable than a smaller audience where most guests purchase snacks and drinks. It sounds unbelievable, but the numbers support it. Concessions typically represent a much smaller portion of total sales than tickets, yet they frequently generate a disproportionately large share of overall profit. That's because the margins are dramatically higher. This explains another question people ask all the time. Why is movie theater popcorn so expensive? The better question is, how could theaters survive if it weren't? If snack prices were cut in half, many locations would struggle to cover their operating costs without significantly increasing ticket prices. Customers often complain about paying $8 or $10 for popcorn, but that purchase helps finance everything from employee wages to equipment maintenance and utility bills. In other words, the snacks help subsidize the movie itself. Economists describe this as a complementary pricing strategy. Instead of maximizing profit on the main product, businesses keep the entry price relatively attractive while earning more from optional purchases made afterward. You've probably seen the same approach in other industries. Game consoles are sometimes sold with razor-thin margins because companies expect to earn money later through software, subscriptions, and digital purchases. Printers are inexpensive because replacement ink cartridges generate recurring profit. Coffee machines can be surprisingly affordable because the capsules sold afterward are where manufacturers make their money. Movie theaters operate under a very similar philosophy. The film brings people inside. The concessions determine whether the business actually makes money. Once you understand that, nearly every decision inside a theater starts making sense. From the location of the concession stand to the giant combo meals, refill offers, loyalty programs, and premium snack upgrades waiting just a few steps beyond the ticket scanner. If the business model is built around high-margin concessions, then why are so many theater chains still under pressure? Because the problem isn't how much money each customer spends. The problem is how many customers show up in the first place. For decades, going to the movies was a routine part of entertainment. Families went on weekends, couples planned date nights around new releases, friends gathered for the latest action movie or comedy. Theaters didn't need every film to become a blockbuster because audiences visited regularly throughout the year. That habit has changed. Today, many people no longer feel the need to watch every new release in a theater. Instead, they wait a few weeks until the movie appears on a streaming platform they already pay for every month. From the customer's perspective, it makes perfect sense. Why spend $40 or $50 on tickets, snacks, and transportation when the same movie will soon be available from the comfort of your couch? For theater owners, however, that small change in consumer behavior creates a massive financial problem. Every empty seat represents lost ticket revenue. More importantly, it represents lost concession sales, the very part of the business with the highest profit margins. A customer who never walks through the front door doesn't just skip buying a ticket. They also don't buy popcorn, they don't buy drinks, they don't buy candy, they don't upgrade to premium seating. Every missed visit removes multiple revenue opportunities at once. And unlike many businesses, theaters can't simply reduce their costs because fewer people show up. The building still has to be heated or cooled. Employees still need to be paid. Projectors require maintenance. Sound systems need servicing. Insurance, rent, property taxes, software licenses, cleaning, and security continue whether 50 people attend that day or 500. Most of those costs remain fixed. Revenue changes quickly. Expenses don't. That's why attendance matters more than almost any other number in this industry. Even a few weak months can place enormous pressure on cash flow. Large chains face another challenge. Expansion, opening dozens or even hundreds of locations requires enormous amounts of borrowed money. During good years, that debt can be managed because strong attendance generates enough cash to cover interest payments while still leaving room for growth. But when attendance falls, the math changes almost overnight. Instead of using profits to expand, companies begin using cash simply to meet existing financial obligations. Growth slows, renovations get delayed, older equipment stays in service longer, and management shifts its attention from expansion to survival. That's why some of the world's largest theater companies have spent recent years restructuring debt, raising new capital, selling assets, and renegotiating lease agreements. They're not fighting because the theater business suddenly stopped making money. They're fighting because the economics only work when enough people continue showing up week after week. So does that mean owning a movie theater is a bad business? Not necessarily. A well-managed independent theater in the right location can still build a loyal customer base by offering something streaming services never can. Special screenings, community events, classic movie nights, local film festivals, luxury dining experiences, private rentals, premium large-format presentations. These experiences transform a theater from a place that simply plays movies into a destination people actively choose to visit. And that's where the future of the industry may ultimately lie. For over a century, theaters competed by offering the biggest screen in town. Today, that's no longer enough. Modern televisions are larger than ever. Home audio systems continue improving. Streaming libraries grow every month. Competing on technology alone is becoming increasingly difficult. The real competitive advantage isn't the screen, it's the experience. A packed audience laughing together during a comedy. An entire theater holding its breath during a suspenseful scene. The excitement of opening night when hundreds of strangers react to the same story at the same moment. No streaming platform can truly recreate that feeling. That's the real product theaters have been selling all along. The movie may bring people through the doors, but the experience keeps the industry alive. And perhaps that's the biggest lesson in the economics of owning a movie theater. You're not simply investing in screens, projectors, or seats. You're investing in an experience people still can't download,